Well, Jesse Long, it's taken us 4 years, but I think I figured out how to use Facebook.
You figured it out?
I think so. I think so.
It's fine. It's only,
Oh, that's
20 years late. It's very artsy framing.
Thank you. Thank you. Artsy Framing is the name of my indie band.
I'll just hold my mug like this the entire time.
It doesn't work for you. You're not as cool as me.
Yeah, it's fair. I'm not. Ooh, the reed pile mug.
Yeah, that's right. I got the merch going. Let me enjoy my breakfast because I'm such a professional here. Also, I may or may not have just woken up from my mid-morning nap.
That's fine. I'm glad you woke up when you did because I was having a difficult time finding the wake the fuck up samurai, we've got a city to burn gif. I couldn't find a good one. So then I was like, I'm looking for it. And then you woke up and I was like, all right, cool. I'm good.
I don't even know what wake the fuck up samurai is.
Oh, it was the Keanu's big line and in the trailer reveal for Cyberpunk 2077.
Oh, right. I remember when people were excited about that game. That was like what? 5 years ago?
God, yeah. I was super hyped for that. I was like, oh God, this is gonna be so fucking great. Oh, I love this kind of shit. No.
Yeah, I could have warned you that was gonna happen. I think I did warn you that was gonna happen. Anyway, welcome everybody to another fantastic episode of the POWA Hour, featuring your favoriteest podcasting tag team, the original American Dadass. I don't know why it's original now. Everything's original. The American Dadass, Jesse Long, and me, of course, the Sussman, Rick Sussman. Jesse, it has been an extra week since we last had a podcast, which means that we are now more than 2 weeks behind on all pop cultural references. So we will be getting to things at the height and zenith of their importance.
Yes, flawless victory.
Yes, flawless victory, Lucy Lawless victory, all kinds of victories.
Speaking of being super up to date, this week we are not sponsored by the return of Pepsi Blue. Do you remember? I mean, I'm sure you probably remember Pepsi Blue. It's not like you weren't too young for it, but because it was that thing when I was in high school. So when you were like,
I don't
in grad
remember
school.
Pepsi Blue, but it's because I wasn't actively seeking out Pepsi Blue. I was a Crystal Pepsi guy, and after Crystal Pepsi died, I stopped caring. So tell us about Pepsi Blue.
Okay, cool. I mean, while I was drinking Pepsi Blue in high school, you were getting laid. So it's probably
that is grossly inaccurate, unless while you were in high school, I was in college.
So I know that timeline.
Good to know. Good to know one of us does.
I remember the GGE Rick days. Yeah.
That guy got a hat together. That guy knew what the score was.
Yeah, exactly. All right. I have not had Pepsi Blue.
So what is your I'm trying desperately to be a Pete Cannonball Run and do my 1 minute Pepsi reviews?
Let's see. I haven't had this since high school. It was what I drank during lunch in high school because we had Pepsi vending machines. Hopefully, I'm just going to go for it. They brought it back for America, I guess.
Tell us about the aroma.
It is very sort of like, I gotta stuff my nose in there like a sommelier. It's very berry-ish. It actually does smell pretty nice. Let's give it a taste. Yeah, that's good. I would drink that again. It's just a sort of like kind of berry flavored soda. There's nothing wrong with it. Gets a good sign off on my end. It is caffeinated. That's good.
So as far as sugar water goes, this is definitely sugar water.
Yes, as far as it is the bluest. Yay, America, I suppose.
Well,
Thanks, America.
we got Memorial Day coming up at the end of the month.
Yeah,
and then
and 4th of July.
within the same week.
Yeah.
No, wait, no, sorry, not week, month. With it, just under a month after Memorial Day, there's the 4th of July. So you really got to cram all your American goodness.
Oh yeah, they also have all the they brought back Dew SA, the Mountain Dew. I don't remember if we tried that on the show.
I feel like we didn't, because I would have remembered Dew SA, which
Yeah,
I understand they're trying to make it sound like USA, but Dew SA just sounds like something that our friends from the great island of PR would say.
Yes, exactly.
Well, Jesse,
so
now that we've wasted 5 minutes, I think we can get on with the show.
What's that? Yeah.
I said, now that we've wasted 5 minutes, I think we can get on with the show.
Yes, I agree. Welcome everyone to the POWA Hour. In I don't know what kind of fashion. In no particular fashion, I am going to derail the show immediately, and I'm going to cash in my what's pissing me off this week, because it's actually topically relevant to what we typically talk about at the top of our show.
All right, go right ahead, sir.
My what's pissing me off this week was going to be the psycho douchebag anti-maskers that made a big fucking loud stink this past week in Seminole County and sort of forced the hand of Seminole County Public Schools to just completely remove the mask mandate for the following school year. So just like masks they just won't be required at all for the next school year in Seminole County. As it relates to wrestling, as you may have heard around the dirt sheets, Drake Wirtz was one of those people.
Yeah.
NXT referee Drake Wirtz was one of these loud fuckers.
Very concerned about people using their masks to hide their identity so that they can continue to rape baby children without any evidentiary proof whatsoever that any of this was happening. Although lots of evidentiary proof that Republicans are raping children. But
yeah,
I guess we're not going to.
In Seminole County, no less. So yeah, I watched Drake Wirtz's little speechy speech where he decided he was going to cut a promo about how he's a child of God and how wearing masks is detrimental to children because they can't read adults' facial expressions and whatever else fucking backwards ass QAnon bullshit he decided to shoot out of his fucking mouth. And
it was very QAnon based, yes.
Yeah, and I believe I've read. I haven't read his Facebook posts because I don't hate myself that much. And apparently his stance is that if you don't agree with him, you support child sex trafficking. Just flat, period, the end. And
which again would carry a lot more weight if people who are so QAnon supporters and QAnon believers and QAnon, what do they call them, the Q-tubers, hadn't actually been found to be the Q-tubers. Yeah, they haven't all been found in one fashion or another. Some of the more major important ones, obviously not all of them, because that would just be too delicious, but many of them have actually been found to be involved in child rape and human trafficking. And we now have evidentiary proof that one of their big boys, not Matt Gertz, but Matt Gaetz, has apparently been doing the cocaines off the hookers in the middle of, the politicking.
Yeah.
I don't really care.
Literally trafficking. Literal child sex trafficking, because
I don't care anymore, because I now understand that this is not a political movement. It's just a trolling thing, and it's just a way for people to get likes and clicks. And when they're like, "Oh, I support ending the mask mandate so that little babies aren't getting raped by grown adults," and I say, "Well, that's great. What do you also feel about Matt Gaetz being tied to a child trafficking thing?" And they say, "Oh, that's a a plot by the deep state to make Matt Gaetz look bad. And I say, okay, what if the evidence? And they say, well, that's just fake. And I say, right. This is pointless. There is no reason to have these arguments anyway.
I guess maybe I'm less mad at Drake Wirtz, but I mean, I'm really mad at Drake Wirtz, and I hope he gets fired from the WWE. And I hope that all the youth organizations that he claims to be, you know, a volunteer coach at, I hope they fire him too. And I hope I never see him in the street. But maybe I'm not mad at Drake Wirtz himself. Maybe I'm more mad at the fact that Seminole County, and it wasn't just Drake Wirtz. There were other assholes at this thing. You know, just they were there. If you haven't watched the video, they're all just, you know, these dumb looking motherfuckers cheering him on as he's cutting his stupid little anti-mask promo. And that's exactly what it was. It was just him cutting a promo. And
as a
so maybe
reminder, the WWE was only mad that he did it while wearing an NXT shirt and being live from, you know, the NXT arena. People are going to say that. Yeah, people are going to say that. Oh, the WWE is pro QAnon and anti-mask. No, they just don't want they don't necessarily want to be involved in any of this shit. If the WWE truly wanted to say we are pro-COVID and anti-mask, they wouldn't have built the fucking Thunderdome, would they?
Yeah. No, I guess maybe what's pissing me off more is that Seminole County kowtowed to these loud assholes. And so, and what's
really matter now.
What?
It doesn't matter now. They said anyone that's vaccinated, you don't even have to wear a mask anymore.
That's true. I think what's pissing me off more is that psycho douchebags like Drake Wirtz ultimately had a decision in my children's safety. You know, like, masks aren't required anymore.
That's great. I mean, Jesse, you can't protect your kids from the world. I'm sorry, as an unchilded parent of
I agree.
Cats. I don't know what to tell you, brother. I mean, you can be mad about it as much as you want, but if it's not Drake Wirtz and his no mask policy, it's going to be some other shitbag. You know, why are you not this pissed off about the fact that we still have guns everywhere in this country?
Oh, I am. But I guess, I don't know, this one little thing. I think about the mask thing has been kind of a weird thing that I've been wrestling with, because my middle kid's got asthma and my oldest takes medicine that fucks with her immune system. So it's a tough thing for me to wrestle with.
It's not a tough thing for you to wrestle with, but like, I think you would benefit less from having this podcast be your therapy and more from actually getting therapy, because there's no real easy answer here. And the simplest answer is you're mad at something that you can't control.
Well,
so I understand that you're looking at Captain Drake and his stupidity and that's your focal point, and I get it. But being mad about things that you can't control is just called being grown in the United States of America. So
that's true. That's true.
What I told you a couple of weeks ago, what I tell everybody on Twitter, I don't retweet, I don't engage, I don't like or subscribe. I don't bother with people that are engaging in not just bad faith arguments, but have no interest in actually changing their opinion. It used to be the argument that, well, I want you to hear my side of it because I'm going to change your opinion. Nobody's changing their opinion. Nobody's changing their opinion. Even some of the people on the extreme left I'm not interested in hearing from anymore, because everyone that I know on the extreme left wants us to, we got to hammer through this change and hammer through that change, and hammer through that change. And I say, yeah, I mean, I guess we could. I'm just happy that the country is no longer actively engaging in attempted genocide. So for me, I'm just like, all right, well, this seems to be an improvement. And people will say, well, they're not actively engaging in it, but they're not going and stopping attempted genocide. And I say that's true, and that's terrible. But I'm happier now, and I can sleep at night.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I can agree with that. And then I guess to wrap that up, I did see speak just sort of about masks. I saw Richard Cheese, the wonderful lounge singing cover singer, tweeted something. I don't know if it was this morning. I saw it this morning. I don't know if it was this morning, but it was basic. I'm gonna try to paraphrase it, but it was basically, yes, wearing a mask if you are fully vaccinated is no longer required. But odds are that if you see someone else that's not wearing a mask, that they are not vaccinated and a self-serving, science-denying fuckwit. So you should probably still wear your mask.
Well, and not to put too fine a point on it, but I want to say, I think it was the Mets or the Yankees, and all the baseball teams are fully vaccinated, but they just had like 8 players contract COVID. Now, it's good that they're vaccinated. Yeah, they're fully vaccinated. Remember, being fully vaccinated just means that in the best case scenario, you're 97% chance of not getting COVID, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And also, if you're fully vaccinated, it means that you have a 100% chance that COVID will not kill you. There's also a 100% chance that the version of COVID that you get is not going to be extreme, but it's going to be COVID. So if you are COVID positive, and you come across a human that is unvaccinated and you give them COVID, they could still die.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's going anywhere. I've already told my wife I'm wearing my mask at Publix. She wears hers. You can do what you want to do, but ultimately it's not going to change a whole lot.
Yeah, we still require people to wear their masks in our store, and the way that back when the task force was a thing, back before Ron DeSantis decided that local government didn't have any authority over this shit or whatever, but the day one, as soon as Orange County announced we're gonna have a task force at like 10, we opened at 10. At 10:30, the task force was at my store. And they were like and checking all of us and stuff. And so we are so distant enough at our store that we don't have to wear the mask like every second of every day. But the second a customer comes in, or if we like go and like talk to each other, like I have to go to like my coworker's desk, I gotta put a mask on. If a customer comes in, I gotta put a mask on. And I just the amount of people that just like they come in and it's just, oh, I'm fully vaccinated. Don't worry about it. Don't do it. Don't put your mask on. And I'm just like, it's not about you. And we require it. So
yes, businesses have been allowed to tell people what you can and cannot do for a long time. All right, on to the actual discussion of wrestling and wrestling-related items. While we've been gone, AEW has been something on a bit of a tear, having a lot of really great shows week after week. And one of them involved a pseudo pay-per-view that was not a pay-per-view because it was just a regular show, but it was called AEW Presents Blood and Guts. And
AEW loves their specials now. It's really interesting. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't really have anything to do with the fact that they're so new, but I feel like in the like the year and a half that Dynamite has been around, like it's like every couple of months they're like, and then sometimes like a couple of weeks in a row they're like, yeah, we're just gonna have like a pay-per-view level show, just for poops and goofs.
Well, I mean, there used to be the time and a place where you would just turn on Raw and get a really great show every week. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have a special attraction or event, but I remember cage matches being on Raw mattering, and it was a big deal when it would happen. It was rare. So having a blow-off feud on free television isn't necessarily a bad idea, especially in a down economy when you got shit else to do anyway, and you're not really building the pay-per-views.
Yeah, and I mean, I have not and don't anticipate ever buying an AEW pay-per-view. I'm not dropping $60. I don't care shit how good of a match it is. I don't care if it's, short of Kenny Omega versus the Jiu-Jitsu Wolf Rick Sussman for the AEW World Title. I
wouldn't watch that match. I would not. I would tell you not to watch that match. That sounds like a terrible match. Kenny Omega cannot carry me to a 3-star match. I guarantee it. And if you're out there, Kenny Omega, I dare you to prove me wrong. I dare you to challenge me to a match on AEW Dark or Dynamite or Explosion or TNA or a AAA Mania or something, where you bump all over the ring and show the world that you can turn any lump of shit into a 3-star or better classic. But
I'm clipping. We are adding Kenny Omega, 100%. Don't sell yourself short, Ray. This 100% the main event of Dark Elevation.
I incredibly doubt it. I do not believe for a second, unless it was an entire ground-based affair where the majority of my selling involved my knee actually giving out and me trying to explain to people that I cannot stand. I literally am not selling. Please, for the love of God, get me out of here.
Your kneecap explodes out of your knee, and Kenny like chucks it at you like a baseball, and then you just fall to the ground and die.
Yeah. People would still not believe that was a sell. Yeah. They would say that I'm not a good worker.
But
anyway,
the AEW fans would still be very unhappy about that. They would say, "Oh, that looks fake."
Blood and Guts happened, and it was, for all intents and purposes, a very good double ring, War Games-like event that involved lots of blood spilling, lots of people wearing their alternate white uniforms so that they could emphasize the lots of blood spilling, and ended with MJF threatening to murder Chris Jericho from the top of the cage if Jericho's team did not submit, which I thought was kind of lame. But I liked the idea of it. I would have preferred them do a different kind of ending where, Jericho was still threatened. I like the idea of Sammy Guevara saying that, he cares more about his mentor than he does wins and losses. I thought it was a well put together story. But of course, it cannot be an AEW event without something going potentially wrong with the big payoff spot at the end. And in this case, it was Chris Jericho being thrown off the top of a 20-foot cage and onto what was thought to be a very safe-looking and very ill-prepared crash pad.
Yeah.
To which I immediately said, man, go fuck yourself. I saw Shane McMahon fall off the side of a building onto like 3 crash pads in a Big Show. And you're trying to give me shit for Chris Jericho falling through a ring structure? It looks fine. I watched it. He thuds.
The only criticism I have, and I think the only valid criticism, I mean, we're going to continue to talk about it, but I think the only valid criticism you have about it was that it was a bad camera angle when they shouldn't have like zoomed in on Chris being dead in the ramp, because then you could see that the diamond plate was just like cardboard with like a diamond plate, vinyl, like to show that it wasn't like really metal and it was safe.
Why is that a bad camera angle? Why is that a bad? Did they not fall 20 feet?
Well,
was he on a wire?
I mean, true, but I mean, if at no point had they like zoomed in on him, then the viewing audience at home would have never seen that it's obviously fake, even though which is ridiculous.
It is obviously fake. It says wrestling. It says it's obviously fake. Like, I've been watching Deathmatch Wrestling the last 2 days on YouTube because I watched the Nick Gage special. And what I found about Deathmatch Wrestling is it is crazy interesting, but ultimately it gets kind of boring because it's the same light tube spot over and over again. Because it's the only way you can do it safely is to over somebody's head with it.
Like,
otherwise, you end up like Nick Gage and get gashed and almost die.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we
only so many ways to do this.
Yeah, we went to No Peace Underground, and no disparagement to them, but every light tube spot was the same. The only difference was the shape and the configuration of the light tube. It was all just, that's all it was. And
that's fine, because I don't go to pro wrestling and think, man, can't wait to watch somebody actually die. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be incredible. Can't wait to see somebody get physically concussed to the point where they can no longer participate in living.
Exactly.
I go to pro wrestling for the story, and watching Jericho fucking plummet off the top of that goddamn box-like structure was crazy. Like, I don't care that he hit a pad. I've hit a crash pad before. You know what doesn't feel good? Hitting a crash pad. You know why? Because your body goes,
He still got hurt. He still got hurt. He, like, this past week on Dynamite, he had his arm in a thing, and he was legit hurt.
It doesn't feel good to fall 20 feet.
My biggest issue, my biggest takeaway from this whole thing was that 3 weeks ago, we were talking about how the fans were complaining about Darby getting hurt from taking a bump. And now this past week, the fans are complaining that Chris did something safe. Make up your fucking mind, AW fan. Internet.
You're not going to win fighting the internet, because the internet, as I've said so many times, it's just there. It all relates. It's just there to get you to click on, the video. The first AEW video I watched, review rather, was probably Mr. Ollie's review of AEW at about 5 minutes. And I watched it and I saw, all the bumps, and I was like, so we're not upset about this guy bleeding buckets all over the ring. We're upset about, a 20-foot drop that didn't look as impressive. But also, caveat, what's his face? Oh my God, I can't think of the guy's name. He took a bad bump and broke his neck like the week prior, and everyone was like, well, he landed on his feet. But he landed on his head. That's just a regular wrestling move.
I'm trying to remember who you're thinking of.
I think it's Ricky Starks.
Ricky Starks got hurt. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, I look at The Miz, and the older I get, the more I appreciate The Miz, who's like, hi, pro wrestling is basically just acting, only with a little bit more physical activity. And I look at that and I'm like, okay. I mean, I'm now 39 years old. I don't want people getting hurt in and around me. I watch these guys take bumps all day, and I'm like, but they're grown adults, and they're going to do what they want to do, and that's fine. I'm not going to disparage them for the choices that they make. I'm certainly not going to disparage them for being safe about the choices that they make.
Yeah. Well, Humberto Carrillo almost broke his leg in a million places this past week on Raw. He did like a sunset flippy dippy thing, and Sheamus landed on like his leg flat on the ground. Like his leg was flat on the ground, and Sheamus landed on it, and like they had to stop the match because they thought Humberto's like knee was gone. So yeah,
I mean, I'm old enough to remember that Draws took a power bomb wrong and broke his neck. So anything you can do to be safer in pro wrestling, I'm going to be okay with. People were like, oh, they're not really hitting each other. Man, I've been hit in the face. You know what hurts? Being hit in the face. Like, a lot. It's not fun. Like, waking up the next morning and having 2 black eyes because you took a random elbow halfway through a roll with someone, that hurts, man. That's not fun. I don't enjoy that. So, you know what? If this was real, if it was really, really real, matches would be about a minute and a half long.
Yeah, exactly. If you really, if people not getting actually hurt and, people not getting actually hit in the face is your deal breaker, go watch MMA.
Yeah. MMA gets boring as hell too.
Yeah, exactly. Their storylines probably were. Yeah.
Storylines can be pretty boring.
They got a shit.
So, something else that's going on in the world of pro wrestling, and perhaps a bit more interesting and a bit more exciting, is MLW, which has sort of been leaning towards sort of a modern day American style lucha libre product with a bit of MMA thrown in that it looks a little bit more, the presentation is more realistic, has gone full crazy nutso bonkers.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah. They're like, hey, you know how much you like all this like sports-based presentation? Well, we're gonna flip that on its ass. Now they're not like completely changing the format of ML. Does MLW have? Does their show have a name? Is it Fusion?
Fusion. It's Fusion. Sure,
right?
Fusion. I think I retweeted that. It was this morning.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, they're not like changing the format of Fusion, but like, yeah, it's going to be seemingly a secondary show to Fusion, and I'm excited for it. I can't say I'm not.
Azteca Underground.
Yes.
The return in many ways, shape, and form of another show called Lucha Underground, which was bonkers, crazy, ridiculous, and had people getting fake cinder blocks upside the head, which I thought was hilarious.
I loved Lucha Underground. I think Lucha Underground, it sort of hit that, you know, where it tickled my exact fancy for what I'm looking for in wrestling. The wrestling was good, sure, fine, whatever. But like every once in a while, somebody would get murdered, not in a realistic, you know, all these people are having a legitimate death match where they're going to beat each other to death and stab each other in the face. But like, you know, somebody who's like soul would get taken, you know, like something like there was this like ridiculous supernatural bullshit, and I loved it. I loved, and I will. Lucha Underground always had a knack. Now I know this is different. It's a different company. It's, you know, it's not going to be the exact same people producing the show, but I will always credit Lucha Underground as, I remember one episode, I would just sort of watch it in and out sporadically because it wasn't easy to get. Like anytime I wanted to watch Lucha Underground, I would have to sign up for like a free trial of Sling. And then, you know, that's the only way I could watch it.
Yeah, the El Network was not easy to come by.
Yeah, El Rey was not easy to get. Now it's easy to get, and there ain't shit on it. There was the episode. I always give them credit because in the span of one episode, they did such good storytelling that by the end of the episode, I had an emotional interest in. So it was the episode where Rey Fénix won the Lucha Underground title from whoever the fuck it was. It might have been Mil Muertes. I don't remember. I don't think it was Mil Muertes. But so through it, I don't remember all the exact specifics, but like they peppered in enough stuff through, you know, recaps and then, you know, little story bits in the middle, and then the match itself was so good by the end of, you know, Ray actually winning the belt. I had goosebumps, and like, you know, I was getting emotional watching him win. And this is the second time I'd ever seen him on television, period, the end. I didn't know who Rey Fénix was, but by the end of it, I was like, oh shit, oh god, yeah. And I was and you know, in the span of an hour, 2 hours of TV. So if MLW wants to do that again, I am all for it. Yeah.
Shrug.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to me. I like Lucha Underground plenty, but I also thought it went way beyond hokey way too often. Which I know was kind of the point. But yeah, for me, I like a good blend of hokey and realism, which is why, for the most part, I've always sort of gravitated towards local indie-fed ridiculousness, because local indie-fed ridiculousness tends to have that great combination of hokey and regular stuff. Yeah. I mean, people love to look at Murder Grandpa, but I want to remind everybody that Murder Grandpa's greatest enemy was a giant man crab. And he's tried to murder him on more than one occasion. And I don't mean the guy's name is Man Crab. I mean, like, he's literally like a kaiju who's also like, you could find Mizuru Suzuki in Kaiju Big Battle and it wouldn't be out of place. And he's the most murderous grandpa who ever lived. So that's the level of hokiness that I like in my pro wrestling. I love that MLW is. Go ahead.
No, I was just verbally agreeing with you, but yeah.
Okay. I love that MLW is really going forward and just saying, no, we're gonna really push on this Lucha Underground fan base, and we're going to absorb them into ours, because I think that's a great idea. But for me, overall, I mean, I loved the notion of what is it, the Cueto brother, whose real name was like it was Spanish for like massacre or something like that. When they Matanza Cueto, yeah, exactly. I love when they brought him in, and he was supposed to be this like hulking, gigantic mass human, And then it turns out it was just Jeff Cobb. And I'm like, I love Jeff Cobb, and he's amazing,
Yeah.
but he's 5'8". And so I don't. Could he deadlift me and spin me around by my ankles? Of course he can. He's still 5'8". Whether or not you're 5'8" is not whether or not you're a good wrestler. However, when you're telling me that this is a giant, monstrous, hulking individual, and he comes out and Kevin Nash goes, "Sup, bro?" then I am going to just sort of say, "Oh, maybe we."
I think Dario was. I feel like Dario was probably taller than him. I think he's not gonna be Dario Cueto now. I think he has like. I think he's gonna be like. I think I read his name's gonna be like Cesar Duran or something like. Because I guess they can't get Dario Cueto, but whatever.
Sure.
Yeah. What I wonder aloud is, is there any connective tissue between Azteca Underground and this supposed working relationship with the WWE? And what I want.
So I've reached out to my contacts at MLW, and the immediate response is no comment. I'm not commenting on this. You will not quote me. I swear to fucking God, if you try, we are not friends anymore. And I said, fair enough.
Yeah.
I am.
I can see that conversation playing out in real life too. In my head, I know exactly who you're talking about too. So yeah.
Yeah. Well. I could not get a comment out of that person. I went to a secondary and tertiary and tertiary backup, and everyone basically told me to get fucked. And I said, fair enough. But I went and read all the dirt sheets about it, and I feel like that may ultimately have been a story that was floated that then got picked up, and then people were commenting on the story as the story, which is something that happens in politics a lot. So what happens in politics a lot is some random jabron will make a statement that is completely ludicrous, like Joe Biden, like he'll say something like, "I believe Joe Biden is out to eat babies." And then Newsmax will say, "We have it on good authority that a political insider is saying that Joe Biden wants to eat babies." And then people will start commenting on Newsmax, commenting on it, and somehow the story makes it to CNN. So I think what happened here is somebody mentioned something about MLW and the WWE, and then when Meltzer reported on it, even though he was reporting on it negatively, saying there's nothing here, that was enough to get everyone going, MLW to WWE confirmed.
Yeah, exactly. Which is a bummer, because now in my head I was really looking forward to like Roderick Strong going into the temple, but that's okay. I'm okay with that.
I still think there's a possibility. Like, here's the other side of the coin. If there was no possibility whatsoever, the people who I know who work at MLW probably would have told me, no, there was no possibility. So the fact that they're not willing to make any comment on it whatsoever makes me think that maybe there is something there, but perhaps it's not as big of a deal as we like. I love the idea of MLW being a feeder league to NXT, which it already has sort of been in a lot of ways. Swerve Scott, Matt Riddle, help me out here. How many MLW guys that we saw in MLW were quickly snapped up by the WWE, specifically the NXT brand?
I can't think of. I'm trying to think of I'm trying to remember people off the top of my head specifically. I can't remember, but yeah, Swerve was one. Riddle was another. A bunch of them also ended up going to AEW. You know, like like Darby Allin.
Yeah.
You know, was at the MLW show. We went to. I can hardly remember who was at that MLW show we went to. Leva was there.
And Stoke Hathaway, or what's his name? Malcolm Bevins.
Malcolm Bevins.
Malcolm Bevins. Yeah, he was another MLW to NXT guy. So I feel like there might already be a working relationship between MLW and WWE in place to an extent. But I would love for MLW to be a feeder league for the WWE. I would love for the WWE to accept feeder leagues. Like, we got this close with like Evolve and a couple other companies that were essentially WWE feeder leagues, but they just wouldn't put the WWE brand on it. And that is a Vincent Kennedy McMahon Jr. issue. Like, he just won't accept that there are other brands out there, and he could have just done the AEW thing years ago and just been on top of the world. And it's you look at Azteca Underground, and you're like, this is cool. Like, it's not my cup of tea, but it's fucking cool. MLW into WWE could have been, WWE using the Azteca Underground, calling it MLW. But just, I don't know why they're not doing it. It would be fun.
Well, I mean, and also, I mean, just from a geographical standpoint, MLW and WWE having a working relationship. MLW typically tapes their show 15 minutes down the road from the Performance Center, or the Capitol Wrestling Center. So it makes sense. And even if it's just like what NXT was doing with Evolve before, where they weren't doing anything with the Street Profits in NXT, and so the Street Profits were the Evolve Tag Champions for a while. So I don't know. I
just think if we're gonna be all about opening the forbidden door, which I still think is complete and utter bullshit. And by the way, looks like I was right, because TNA can't pop a fucking rating all of a sudden, even though they boy is the TNA champion. I told you this was going to happen, because nobody cares about the rest of your product if your champion doesn't exist. And I know this because we saw it happen with Raw, and how Lesnar only showed up for 3 pay-per-views a year. Like, if the champion isn't at least on television, they don't care.
I love the one thing I do love about the whole like WWE MLW thing is as soon as AEW starts doing business with somebody, hello cat, as soon as AEW starts like publicly in bringing in other companies, WWE's like, yeah, we were always open for business. What are you talking? We've been open for business all the time. It's just other people that weren't open for business. So look at us. We got what's their nuts? MLG or something, like MLB over here. And so yeah, we work with people too. We work with people, like, yeah.
I find it to be we were open to business in the same aspect of what was the other thing? Oh, I was going to mention something. Shit, now I forgot. Oh, it doesn't matter. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. I would love to see a working relationship with MLW and the WWE. I would love to see the Forbidden Door matter. But as is evidenced by Jon Moxley defending the IWGP United States title in Jacksonville, winning it, and ultimately in a 10-minute scramble match of essentially nothing. Like, okay, well, I guess this was all a pile of shit, wasn't it? So, pro wrestling's pro wrestling, guys. Bad news. Let's move on.
Hey, we got Yuji Nagata on Dynamite, which was pretty cool. But so yeah,
Yuji Nagata on Dynamite is pretty cool. I loved him for a long time. Me love him long time. Probably not the best use. Anyway, in pop culture, there has been growing fervor and calamity. And what do we do now with Superman? Superman needs to be rebooted yet again. The Snyderverse is dead. Release the Snyder Cut happened, and everyone went, hey, that's a markedly better movie than the one that was released in theaters, but still it wasn't good. And Warner Brothers said, fantastic, here's $70 million that we spent on this to promote our new streaming service that ultimately needed to happen because COVID made it much more important than we thought it would, and the Snyder Cut no longer matters. So what does this all mean? It means that Superman needs to be rebooted. And now there is a question. Does Superman's ethnicity need to update? Could we see the black Superman? I would like to point out that this already exists. His name is Icon. I have been a fan of his for a very, very, very long time. Milestone Comics happened in the early 90s. Look that shit up. But I'm serious. They're re-releasing all the Milestone comics for like the 25th anniversary of Milestone later this year. Again, look it up. Does Superman need to be a different person of color? I don't really fucking care. Tell the story. If telling the story Superman ends up being a different person of color, then great. I don't give a shit. I just don't.
Yeah.
I like the idea of
there is a black Superman in DC Comics. I mean, seeing all these like
Yes.
every time I see this article come up, or talking about Zack Snyder saying something about there's a image of a black Superman, but I don't follow it as well. Like
So just so you know, that Superman, whose first name is something, last name is Zod. He is a Zod. He is from an alternate reality that was created by Grant Morrison. Grant Morrison created all these different continuities, all these different realities in a book called Multiversity. And this particular version of Earth is Earth 23. And on Earth 23, yes, yeah, interesting. Why 23? On Earth 23, Superman is, his name is Zod, and he happens to be a person of color, and otherwise Kryptonian who was sent to Earth, and I think he becomes President Superman as well, and he bears a somewhat mild resemblance to another recent president of ours.
Yeah.
So if you want to read into it, Grant Morrison made Earth 23 because, well, Michael Jordan is the most famous 23 in the history of ever.
Yeah.
And on Earth 23, evidently there is a black Superman. Now, that's me being a facetious asshole. Maybe Grant Morrison just wanted to make Earth 23 just happen to be the number that popped into his head. Who knows? Yeah. I'm sorry, not his head. Pardon me. I misgendered Grant. Popped into their head. Who knows? That's Grant Morrison's take. It's not my take. I don't know. All I know is that character has shown up a lot in DC Comics, and much in the way that Grant Morrison and others have invented characters, other writers have gotten hold of this character and turned them into something really fantastic, which is the case with, God damn it, I wish I looked up his name, which is the case with this particular character. He's appeared a lot. My favorite one most recently was the DC Holiday Special, where he was drawn very cartoony, and it almost looked like an episode of Teen Titans Go, and it was awesome. I loved it.
That's great.
But I'm very much in the minority because, as far as I'm concerned, I don't care what a character looks like. Like, they just announced Red Sonja is going to be a person of color. That, to me, means dick. I love the idea of Red Sonja getting a movie. To quote one of my friends and Twitter buddies, Jimmy Palmiotti, there should have been 8 Red Sonja movies. The last Red Sonja movie was 35 fucking years ago.
I didn't even know there was a 35-year-old Red Sonja movie.
There was. Yes.
That sounds not good.
But my point, the point of all of this is like, DC has no desire to make a Superman movie right now at all. But if you mention this, you get lots of people to go, ooh, let's talk about this. Now we'll get likes and clicks and people will respond to us. Man, just tell the fucking story. You know what I'd like to see from a Superman movie?
Enjoyability.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I don't care if you're doing, black number 23 Superman or Asian Superman, or invent a whole new Superman and he's a fucking octopus. I don't care. As long as it's a good movie. As long as I haven't even seen the Snyder Cut because I'm dreading it. Like, as long as I'm not dreading watching this movie, it doesn't matter. I mean, I almost feel like going, oh, we're making a black Superman movie now. That's just like, it's clickbait marketing. You can make then it becomes, you don't have to make a good movie. You just have to have now it's just marketing.
Oh, I disagree. If you're going,
oh no, you would have to make a good movie. I agree. It would have to be. If it was a garbage movie, it would be a really big bad deal. And
so I don't know. A lot of this is what ifs and what ifs and what ifs. But again, as far as I'm concerned, if you make a good movie, I'm not really going to care. Like, Brightburn is a pretty decent movie. It's also about an evil Superman. It's actually not Superman. It's Hyperion from Marvel Comics. If you watch the end credits, there's a special thank you to Marvel Comics. So it's actually about Squadron Supreme. which I have all the comics for. So it's actually Hyperion, not Superman. And then the Aquaman is she's a chick in this version, which it matches up with what we saw on again. It's called Squadron Supreme. There's a special thank you at the end. Michael Rooker is at the end. If you don't watch Brightburn, that's fine. Don't worry about Brightburn. Just watch the last 3 minutes of Brightburn and then watch the credits, and you'll see special thanks to Marvel Comics. So there, solved.
There we go. Thank you. I appreciate that. We'll clip that out too, and we'll put that on. I'll let you have that for the repile Twitter.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It'll be as I said to my friends at the collective yesterday when I was picking up my comics. It'll be read by ones and ones of people and cared by less and less. Moving on to other pop culture news, as I made reference to already. Transition. There was a movie that was released in the pop culture world on our TV screens called Mortal Kombat. And Jesse, I'm gonna tell you, man, the first 8 minutes of that movie is fucking good, and the rest of it is just bonkers. Oh, yeah. Have you seen Mortal Kombat?
I've seen it. Yes, I watched it, like, maybe not the day it came out, but like I think I watched it the day it came out. And then yeah, I enjoyed it. Yes, I'm seeing a lot of people say, man, if you just watch that opening little origin bit of Scorpion, just don't watch the rest of the movie. And as long as that's and I think that part's free on YouTube. They released that part on YouTube for free. Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the movie. I think it was better in the scope of, now we've had 3 Mortal Kombat movies with the original, then it's horrifically bad sequel, and then now we have a new one. I enjoyed it. I didn't go into it, expecting. I can't think of a culturally. I can't think of a similar movie, but I wasn't going into it thinking it was going to be, Oscar fodder. It's Mortal Kombat, for fuck's sake. As long as I tempered my expectations, I had fun. I liked it. It was fun. It was silly. It was bad. It
was so terrible, and it was not good. But goddamn, if Kano doesn't rip somebody's heart out and then hold it and say, "Hey, Kano wins," and then I went,
"Yeah,
sold."
Yeah, no, sold. Yeah, exactly. Kano was fantastic. Them making very heavy-handed references to the franchise. The flawless victory, with a
tear in my eye. Oh.
Yeah, exactly. Shang Tsung vaguely, kind of almost saying it has begun, just like, them doing the thing. The amount of times I was sitting there watching the movie and I would just go, he did the thing. It was great. It was bad, but it was great. And I look forward and it's obvious what they were doing. By 45 minutes into the movie, you're like, okay, cool. This is setting up a second movie where there's going to be the tournament, because when I first watched it, I was like, okay, we're not even getting it. So this isn't even the tournament. This is like the road to the tournament. And then once that's what it was, I was like, cool, this is fun.
Well, you can tell
he turns.
You can tell the exact second where the producers went to the writer or director and be like, hey, so we're not actually sure we're getting a second movie, so let's shoot the fucking moon, guys. Because when they first introduced Prince Goro, they're like, oh, they're just doing him in shadows, like you don't get to see the whole Goro, and you're like, oh, they're probably saving that shit for like the big finale at the end. And they're like 2 minutes later, look, it's fucking Goro, he's dead now.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I must have missed it. Apparently there was something at the end where it sort of like implied that like some of these people are just going to come back even though they've been violently, brutally murdered. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, because if Scorpion can return from hell, then anyone can.
Exactly. That's good. Good. My children are murdering. Speaking of Mortal Kombat, I think my children are murdering each other. My wife can deal with that. But it's Mortal Kombat. It's not. This isn't like it's not. it's not. If we're gonna speak in video game terms, it's not like fucking Mass Effect or Metal Gear or
Metal Gear, the game that's so wondered and so great that Dave Bautista won't even be in it, even though he's perfectly already cast for the role.
Yeah.
With your home life situation being what it is, Jesse, why don't we just skip ahead to the next portion, because at this point I'm now worried for your wife's safety. But let's move on to...
I think it's good now. I think it's good. But I don't know if we had any other pop culture stuff anyway. But
there was a few, but it's fine. It's no big deal. We'll put a dovetail on Mortal Kombat saying, if you went into Mortal Kombat expecting a movie that you would like, that's great. If you went into Mortal Kombat expecting a movie that was good, you're an idiot.
I think that, again, look at the source material. No one plays Mortal Kombat for the story. There is no story. I couldn't tell you. I know there's lots of backstory, and I'm sure me saying, if we were a popular, well-viewed show, there would, me saying there's no backstory to Mortal Kombat, somebody would, there'd be people coming out of the wings going, well, actually, there's lots of backstory to Mortal Kombat. You just haven't.
But there's tons of history to Mortal Kombat, but on the same token, did a guy's spine get ripped out? Oh, it did. All right. Well,
exactly. Did Kung Lao surfboard a winged chick into a circular saw? That's also his hat. And split her goddamn down the middle, and then he goes, flawless victory. Like, yeah, exactly. Like, check that.
Which, by the way, that doesn't make any sense because his victory was flawed. But that's
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it wasn't flawless at all.
No, he took a little damage.
Yeah, he definitely took a couple hits. Yeah,
you can't block. You can't block because you do the little sliver.
Yeah, and like I was saying, it's not. I'm trying to think of some video game that had like. That's celebrated for its
story. The Last of Us, you idiot.
There we go. The Last of Us. I can't think of any other. BioShock. I don't fucking.
Okay, The Last of Us, Heavy Rain, Metal Gear Solid, BioShock's a good one. The last BioShock, anyway. Let's see. Tomb Raider has a good story. You want me to keep going, or should I stop?
No, but exactly. I mean, that's none of those. Mortal Kombat, in terms of games, is none of those things. It's a fighting game. It's a game that when I remember being in a middle school and my friends would come over because I was the only reason they wanted to come over, the only reason they were my friends was because I was the only person with a Genesis and Mortal Kombat and a bunch of controllers, and it wasn't a Genesis, it was a Sega Nomad, but it was the same thing.
Close enough.
It was close enough, and we all played fucking Mortal Kombat, and it was great, and I was terrible at it, but whatever, people liked me, the end. What's pissing you off this week, Rick?
All right, fair enough. So what's pissing me off this week, Jesse, is the term smart marks. Back in my early days of pro wrestling fandom, I was considered just a mark. I didn't know wrestling was, I knew wrestling was fake, but I didn't understand how the sausage was made. When I got to college, I met a bunch of people who smartened me up and explained to me how wrestling happens and what it is, and then I became what's known as a smart mark, and I knew the inside of the business. And there's always been this weird rift in the smart mark community of, are the smart marks really what makes the fans, or are the fans less important? This week on AEW Dynamite, or Blood and Guts, whatever the hell it was, we saw the end of an era. SCU is dead and gone. And Christopher Daniels has said so much that he's 51 years old, and that was probably his last match, maybe. And I thought the way that... What's that?
He still has to fight you.
I don't want to fight him. I trust me, I don't want to fight him. I'm very happy that Christopher Daniels promoted my podcast, and if he ever wants to come on the Reed Piles live version, he's welcome to it. I do not want to fight him because he is 51 years old and in better shape than when I was 20 years old. However, he said as much, and then the big hullabaloo about this was, twofold. For one, AEW didn't really do a good job of selling the fact that this was the end of SCU. After the match ended, they kind of just sort of cut away and screwed around with shit in the back with like Kenny and Mox or something, which was weird. You'd figure if this was a retirement match that, maybe, I don't know, you'd spend a couple of minutes on the guys in the ring. And that kind of pissed me off. But what didn't piss me off, and what I thought was hilarious and very well done, was I forget which one of the Young Bucks. Maybe it was Matt. I don't care.
Matt and/or
yeah.
Jimmy or Jay.
I am Mr. Wrestling 2 or Mr. Wrestling 3. They did the "I'm sorry, I love you" super kick spot from HBK Ric Flair, and that's what ended Christopher Daniels' run. But they did it as swarmy assholes going, "I'm sorry, I love you," and then kicking his head from his shoulders.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you, Jesse Long, that is some hot shit. Mwah! Oh,
yeah.
I love it, just rubbing all over me.
Yeah.
What pissed me off was that these smart marks of the world felt that that was a bad thing to do for the business. How could you? How could you take such a moment of HBK and Ric Flair and make fun of it? They're fucking heels, jackass. That's their fucking point. That's the entire point.
Exactly. If you got mad, proper mad at this, then they did. Newsflash, you got worked.
Yeah.
They are skilled.
You're not a smart. You're a mark.
You're just a mark.
You worked yourself into a shoot. Way to go.
Yeah.
If the point of pro wrestling is to stay ahead of the smart marks, at no point in time should schmucks like you and I really know the ins and outs of the business. And every now and again, every once in a great while, the business does something where we sit and go, that actually got me. Like, it either got me to cheer, like when Roman comes back out and, he holds the mic. It's my yard now. That motherfucker. Oh. Okay. Well done. You got me. Or in this case, they make fun of this classic moment in wrestling history, and I go, that's awesome. And if you're mad about it, then it worked, you dumb bastard. Like, what is your problem? This was perfect. God, I hate people.
No, I mean, and like as you are, as someone who sat in the crowd for "I'm sorry, I love you," the real one, and as somebody who likes Christopher Daniels, as somebody who in no way do I feel offended or that. Again, I got it right away.
It was brilliant.
It's fantastic. I wish they would do more of that. Take other poignant moments in wrestling history and skewer them, because you are heels. And to that end, the Young Bucks need to work extra hard because they are heels that wrestle like baby faces.
Right.
Because they're flashy boys. And so good job. Yes. Yeah, and again, the only takeaway from this whole thing that should be annoying is the fact that AEW didn't do a good job of promoting the whole "if SCU loses another match, then they break up" thing.
Yeah.
Which I remember I went once it was, I was like, oh yeah, SCU's done. I was like, oh yeah, I think I remember hearing something about that on Dark a month ago. And so yeah. And then not, if this was exactly not treating it like, Christopher Daniels' career is in, massive jeopardy. I didn't really watch the match, so maybe they were putting it over on commentary. But but still.
But that wasn't the story. The story wasn't that that's the end of Christopher Daniels. The story wasn't that that's the end of SCU. The story was, how could you make fun of that moment that I really liked when I was a kid? It's like, yeah, man, how could they? I don't know. Yeah. It's crazy.
The story is that the Young Bucks are dickheads. The Young Bucks are freshly minted dickheads. And not only did they just end the career and they ended the tag team's run that you like, they ended the career of a long season professional who should have won, a lot, who never, well, I don't, it's not getting into, Christopher Daniels' career. They also made fun of a really big moment in wrestling history because they're dickheads. That's it.
They supposed to. Yeah. Jesse Long, we already covered what's pissing you off, and evidently it's existential crisis week here on the. That's here.
Well, what I learned is that apparently Pokemon cards are worth pulling a gun out at Target for.
Yes, sir.
So I've touched on the Pokemon card thing recently, and so now the new development is that Target and Walmart will no longer sell the cards in stores at all, because in like Milwaukee or Ohio or some other place in the country, some people got into like an argument, and like there was like a crowd of people getting into a fracas over, I don't know, they didn't say it was specifically Pokemon cards, they were saying sports cards. It might have been baseball cards, I don't fucking know, but it trickles on to like Pokemon and baseball cards.
Yeah.
And
so as someone who has been through this once before, I was around for the original baseball card boom of the 90s, where everyone was hot flipping baseball cards left, right, and center. I can tell you that when you're selling a pack of cards for $5 or $6, and inside of them is invariably a card that's worth $10 or $20, it's a very hot commodity. I will let you know something very specific, Jesse Long. You know what you will not get rich doing in this world?
No.
Flipping baseball cards on eBay. It's not happening.
Yeah.
It's not flipping base. Your Charizard your shiny Charizard selling for $350 is great, but you only typically get one or two of those sales. I know what you're saying. So what you're seeing more than anything is just a bunch of people. This is drug dealing. This is drug dealing 101. To find a whole bunch.
Yeah.
You got to sell a whole bunch of product, and then you got to go find more product. And I on Target, and you know what?
Mm.
The delay at the end of our show is getting worse.
Yeah, I'm noticing that. I noticed the little bit. I was having a tough time hearing a little bit of what you were saying. So let me turn off my Wi-Fi real quick. Hold on. Maybe that'll help.
Okay.
But,
this is always my favorite.
Maybe it's your Wi-Fi. Maybe it's my Wi-Fi. I don't know.
It can't always be mine, Jesse. I'm the only one using it right now.
Yeah, I know. It's got to be mine. Again, I got a better signal in the pool than I did in my garage. But
your garage
so
is
what
more
did you
cement
learn this
walls
week?
and metal.
Yeah.
Very much learned that you cannot train for your first competition. You just have to do it. You can train and you can train and you can train, but until you get into a ring with another human being and a referee says, okay, fucking kill him, and you go kill who, and then you're the one getting tackled, you do not understand what that is like. There is no way for me to explain this in a way that would ever do it justice. I will give you the story of my first ever competition, my first ever round, my first ever match at the tender age of 39 years old against a guy who was 40 pounds heavier than me, because I didn't understand that people actually cut weight for this. So even though I went in at 200, between 200 and 224, walked in at 215, like, I'm 215. I didn't cut weight because why would you? It's a fucking competition. You win a foam title belt at the end that has a nice metal plate on it that's worth, I don't know, $35 maybe. I said, I'm not putting all that energy into this. This does not seem like something that I want to. This is not my life. This is not my life. Like, I don't need to worry about this. So I walked in there at 215 pounds, and in my division, I wasn't just the smallest. I was the smallest by height and width. So I walked in, and my first opponent was, we will say, a very thick man at about probably 240 pounds and about 6'2". And when the referee said, all right, shake hands, I shook his hand. And then the referee said, okay, let's fight. And I got in my defense, and I sort of expected him to go, he just came charging at me. And I said, oh, he's charging at me. So I I did my sprawl, and I stuck out my hand, and I put my hand on his face to turn his head. And in doing so, I cut him across the face with my thumb. He was bleeding. And I look over at the ref, and I'm like, hey, man, he's bleeding. The guy's like holding his eye for a second. And I'm trying to get the ref's attention to notice that there's blood coming off his face, which should have probably meant my disqualification, and the match should have been over. But what happened next was the guy rubbed his eye, and, hey, man, double leg takedown. Oh, so it's like that. So this guy who's now bleeding from his face has full control over the side of my body that I have to defend. We then do a couple of moves. He controls, I control, he controls. He's gaining points because I'm on my back and I'm trying to get away from this guy. Again, is bleeding on me, but I'm trying to get away from him. We end up in the corner of the ring. I have to do just a little dive. Here's me. Here's all right. So here's me. This is my match, right? We got another match happening over here, and over here. We end up in the corner right here in no man's land because that can happen sometimes in a scramble.
Yeah.
Well, match 1 and match 4 are also heading into no man's land. And match 1, the guy almost kicks me in the fucking head. So I'm trying to defend this guy who's actively trying to murder me while he bleeds on me. I have to dodge a kick from one guy. Another guy comes tumbling over. I look up at the ref as if to say, hey, I don't want to fucking die here. Maybe we should do this. And this, I grab my wrist, my hand, and press it against me to try and break my wrist. I look at him dead in the eye and go, really, bro? Grab my own hand, unbreak my hand, force him off of me, at which point the ref goes, we're going to restart. And I said, oh, thank you. We go back to the middle of the ring. I lay down. The ref goes, please lay down, sir. You were on your back. Absolutely. I lay down. I'm like, what do you mean, okay? This motherfucker was in my full guard. Put him back in my guard. That's how this works. And the ref's like, oh, yeah, no, yeah, that's right. Full guard. Please go in his full guard. Now, we're back in the middle of the ring. I don't have to worry about getting murdered. I don't have to worry about this guy bleeding on me anymore. We're in the middle of the ring. I immediately lock on a Kimura on his arm. It's 4.5 minutes into a 5-minute match. I get the sweep, I get the pass, and I splatter him, gain full side control as time runs out. And I just sort of go, good. And I lost. And it wasn't the loss that hurt. It was everything other than the loss. The amount of insanity that goes into this competition was so unknown to me. And the fact that the ref was just fucking terrible. After the match was over, he looked at me and goes, a little bit of advice, buddy. You don't wear a t-shirt when you do no-gi. And I look at him and I'm like, oh, thanks, man. I took it off because it's covered in blood now. So.
God. Yeah. Well, just on the bright side, you didn't. Sorry. On the bright side, you didn't die in Kissimmee.
I didn't, and that is a plus. By the way, have you noticed how much better the communication is between us all of a sudden?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
All right, Jesse. Now that we've figured out what's pissing us off and what we learned, it's time for you to tell us about getting our shit in.
Yes, you can find us on Twitter at Team HAMMA FIST, TEAMHAMMAFIST. You can find the Rick at the Rick Pile. No, at the Reed Pile, the Reed READ Pile. You can find the Wrestling Nerds Radio Network at the WNRN. You can find our wonderful friends with a significantly better podcast, the Indykast at the Indykast, the INDYKAST, or maybe it's just Indykast. I don't remember if they have a V in their name. Doesn't matter. Go to the Wrestling Nerds Radio Network Twitter and you'll find it. You can find our wonderful merchandise at fullygimmick.com. I try to make cool shit all the time, and I put it there for you to make purchase. And coming soon, hopefully, there will be a shiny new thing that we can talk about. That it pertains to the Wrestling Nerds Radio Network. I actually just remembered in my head, that's what did I learn this week was going to be, was that be patient, because last time I was talking about this, I was getting ready to exercise the return policy or the PayPal payment protection. And then about like a couple hours later, I started getting progress photos, and I'm very happy, and I can't wait for that thing to be in hand, and I'm looking forward to it. Rick, do you have any shit to get in?
I don't. You've gotten all my shit in that I needed you to get in, and I appreciate it.
There we go. 32176 jerks.
As always. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in this week. We will be back in 2 weeks' time, probably, to discuss more things in the world of professional wrestling, pop culture, and what new bizarre bullshit I've gotten myself up to that week. So until then, I am the Sus Man, Rick Sussman, for the American Badass Jesse Long. We are Team HAMMA FIST, and we are letting you know that it is exactly today years old that I recognize that MMA is in our name. Till next time, we'll see you then.